We are live.
Hello, welcome everybody to With Thunderous Applause, a podcast where two friends get together and discuss events and ideas that will shape our uncertain future and just basically run through news items that we find interesting depending on how much time we're committed to spending exploring that depth. Shout out to all the actual people who do the work of journalism and reporting and doing all that background and getting all those facts.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate
It
that.
usually takes a team.
Yep. I would prefer much better to talk about systems because I am a systems thinker. And I like to talk about systems. So we need to weave systems into the fucking whatever you call what do you call it? Sign on spiel or whatever.
Pretty much.
Yeah, man. So
the intro,
we'll figure it out. We're working on it. I think we got a Udemy class to take about YouTube branding and shit. This will be great. We are a podcast where two friends get together and just hang out mostly. Talk about crazy shit. What's up, dude? I'm your host, Steve, along with co-host Zach Baca.
Not a lot. It's been pretty uneventful.
Yeah.
Just cleaning out the garden and went to the gym today. I don't like that.
You don't like it?
I don't like that.
You know, yeah. I've been fucking trying. It's so hard to motivate myself, especially on days when like I gotta go into the school, drop the kid off, and then my morning's all fucking disjointed. But even not. I have a park like right by my house. I could literally leave my house on foot and do like if I wanted to try and hustle and see how much ground I can cover in a day, I could leave my house and go up on a nature trail that takes me 7, 8, 10 miles up and 7, 8, 10 miles back. Like, and that would be rad. But
yeah, and conveniently lose cell service while you're up there. Oh no!
Like the whirly dirly experience.
Yeah, exactly.
You just lose your fucking death protection for like a brief moment.
Wonderful.
God, I haven't talked about Rick and Morty for a hot minute.
I didn't know there were any new episodes for a hot minute.
I don't think I've seen any new ones because they always put them on Hulu like the season after.
Yeah, that's generally when I see them is after the season's done. I'll get them all.
Yeah, I don't need it enough to like get Cartoon Network or whatever because that's still only offered to like regular fucking cable, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Do they have a streaming service?
I don't know, Steve. Do they? You keep talking.
I wish that I had enough money to pay you to be my personal fucking like. I want you to be my Google assistant. I'm gonna be like, I have a question. How does this work? And you're just like, here you go, and you're like AI, but like the beta version or whatever. Like you're the unimproved version. Like you still have to be a human to pass through, but you're actually going to be like a lot better than AI because you'll be able to like apply like your own kind of like filter that exists outside of computers, like your own cultural context and all that other shit.
Yeah, I was watching a great video about self-driving cars and how they have the problem, where they can't be like, that is a flock of birds and I know the behavior of birds, so I'm just going to keep driving. Instead, it's like, bird, brake.
So it just sees an object and can't be like, it'll move.
Yeah. Or like, hey, that person is moving. It's moving at a certain speed. I need to slow down or I'll hit them. Let's see. You can get it on Sling Blue, Direct TV Stream, Hulu, or YouTube TV.
Hulu,
yeah. If you want to watch it.
Yeah, but that's not that they only post to Hulu the next season. They air the other seasons on other ones.
Terrible.
I think. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just full of shit, and I'm thinking of other shows that did that where they don't release it to streaming for a while after it airs.
Could be.
I don't know.
Well, but yeah, not much going on over here.
Cool.
Chilling, trying to get healthcare through the VA system. It's taking forever.
Yeah, man.
I think they see me next month.
Very good. Godspeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking rough. That shit sucks. I should probably call them about the chiropractor too.
It's probably cheaper than some of the other ways of getting healthcare, though. Oh man.
Oh yeah, 100%. So today we're doing a fucking shooting the pootie, right? It's Thursday, correct?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Well, no, it's Wednesday. So we're actually one day after Ahsoka. So if we have any wonderful ideas about Ahsoka, we might get to them early, and wouldn't that just be amazing?
That'd be awesome.
I don't have any good ideas.
It came out already.
Huh?
I think the title was something Ahsoka, right?
Yeah, we did. May the 40s be with you, and Ahsoka.
Oh yeah, may the 40s be with you. Today is my 40th birthday.
Woo, in case you guys wanted to know.
If you had a soundboard, you'd have a fucking applause button on there. You don't have to do it now. So
all right.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been hanging out to school a lot. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but we did want to talk about a couple things today. Do you want to just talk about fucking life in Ahsoka, or did you want to cover a news item? I think we said we were going to scrub the news item.
Yeah.
The climate change item. It was really floody in New York, and I'm really fascinated by, of course, like permaculture. And so, yeah, I think that would warrant also not just a different, more dedicated discussion, but I think also a more sober discussion. As I went out for pizza, and since I went out to dinner at like 6:00, I started drinking beer like 3 hours earlier than I normally do.
Of course.
And I just it's thrown me off my rockers. It's like my brain and my body have a certain particular pacing. I also drink like pale ale, Sierra Nevada pale ale, and Bud Light, basically.
Yeah.
Or what I alternate. Usually I do a couple pale ales just to enjoy the beer, and then after that, I'm like, if I'm going to keep drinking, I
just keep me drunk.
Yeah. Just to feed me alcohol, not for taste.
I'm familiar.
And it's much cheaper.
I'm familiar with the techniques.
You're familiar with the technique. Yeah. At any rate, I went out for pizza. A place called Farm Star. I don't know have you eaten there?
Dude, we went there together. Remember, and we got that picture that was like $42.
Bro, it is so expensive.
It is so.
I was joking with my friend Ryan, who you went camping with.
Yeah.
He came and met us. His wife and kid had prior obligations, and I failed to arrange something earlier than 2:00 this afternoon.
Are you available right now? Well, just so happens, yes.
Yeah. So it was good. I love their pizza, but we were all joking that it was it's so good that you got to come back, but it's fucking the price point makes it so that you can only have it every so often. And so it has that nice balance between delivering and charging a price point where you're not expecting people to come back week after week after week, right? Especially now, fuck, bro. We didn't even get a pitcher, a pint of beer, 2 lemonades, 2 pizzas, and a salad. Plus tip were over $100.
Holy fuck. So we got this place, and it's called the Curry Pizza Company. It's not just Fresno. It is out in Lemoore and some other nearby cities, but it is so fucking good. Just take curry and put it on a pizza. Obviously it's less watery, but man, it's so good. The butter chicken is the go-to if you're not feeling too
bro fucking that's my go-to when I don't eat it enough. And my favorite dish at the mess hall when I was at Bagram in Afghanistan was every 2 weeks or so. Usually I think it was on Sunday nights when many fewer people were at the mess hall, because people are just I'm just gonna fucking lock myself in my room and play games or chat with my family or do whatever. And generally like there was also places to buy food and you could like kind of prepare it in your room as a, I don't know, studio apartment with no stove kind of situation. You get like a hot plate and a fucking electric kettle to boil water.
Yeah.
And also the MWR had like grills and shit.
Yeah.
Some people were able to score some meat and stuff. So, but my point being, what was my point? What were we talking about? Wait, bring me back.
I can't this time. You
I'm very
got
high
me.
Also, I'm
you got me
sorry.
the moment. I was thinking about MWR.
Oh yeah, the MWR. I just took you off track, and you're like, "Oh yeah, dude, so many fucking stories." But that's what this stream is about. This stream is about talking about stories and talking about Star Wars, talking about Ahsoka. But I forget exactly what I was thinking. But when I mentioned Bagram Pup, something we said reminded me of it in some way.
I forget them.
I wish we could just tap back,
scrub back through,
trying to just reverse 10 seconds. That would be great on a stream.
Just need a sober person operating everything. I'll be like, you were talking about titties, damn it. Oh,
I don't think I was talking about titties.
You weren't.
Not a Bagram.
No. I mean, but we could talk about Thrawn.
We could talk about Thrawn.
And how he looks
like
like
military industrial complexes. Yeah.
But man, he looks so uncomfortable. When they did the Gift of Shadow thing.
Like, oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Just his facial expression.
It's interesting too, because remember and by remember I mean like I wouldn't have the recall memory for this specific thing, but because I watch a lot of people who talk about Star Wars on YouTube, it is fresher in my mind and I am able to present it as something that I know exists, but I had to be reminded of. But yeah.
Something to do with Thrawn?
What about Thrawn?
Oh, I don't know. You started talking. It didn't seem like you were done yet.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I was talking about how you looked uncomfortable during the Gift of Shadows.
Oh, right. Yeah. Thank you. He just kind of always had said like, oh, I don't really understand the Force.
Yeah.
But then apparently he went there and woke up those witches, right? Like, so we did get a little closure on what happened, which was unsatisfactory in my opinion. It was basically like, well, he found this place. He awoke the witches and started enacting his plan. It was not safe for me to come here alone. And that's kind of legitimate. And knowing Thrawn as the tactician, which they've continued in the few episodes he was in, to demonstrate that he's like, acceptable losses or withdraw. Those losses aren't acceptable, right? Like to really kind of play it in that kind of that game.
Yeah.
The real game, right? The game that American politicians don't understand when it's like Ukrainian and Russian fucking men blowing each other up, like, right? It is a game in the sense of like, if you have a competent commander who can be like, this advances the objective, this doesn't advance the objective. But yeah, no, I think that the Force just kind of confuses him or mystifies him or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I thought, I don't know, Chiss in not just canon or not just in Legends, but I think also in canon, like had like a whole class of people who was Force sensitive in their society, right? Do you know much about it? Man,
no.
For whatever reason, I thought they had like Force using was not foreign to their culture. As far as I know, I don't know.
As though incredibly rare, they have produced Force sensitives.
Okay, so they are incredibly rare.
Yeah, there's a strong stigma against Force sensitive because they believe it to be an impurity or faulty genes.
So the Chiss are so badass and so fucking tactical that they treat people who are in tune with the Force as kind of being like on the autism spectrum.
You sure? Yeah.
Well, they said they didn't like them because they thought that they had. Read it again.
Impure. Oh, just I believe it's an impurity or faulty genes, and so most Force sensitive Chiss. Yeah, no.
That's crazy. So what does that
Is
say? That
Thrawn a
probably says more about me
eugenicist?
than fucking Thrawn.
Is Thrawn a
That I was
eugenicist
like,
though?
that they said faulty genes, and I automatically associated that with like people on the spectrum. I'm sorry. I mean, there's shit. I really can't use this YouTube space as a fucking diary for my life, because like,
Yeah.
not that I'm really genuinely concerned at this point, right? But like, this is the internet, and it does kind of exist in some way, form, or another for like in perpetuity or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that like someone will chronicle YouTube and save it somewhere.
Yeah, and yeah, so I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but
yeah,
man, my fucking kid's second grade class is a mess. And that comes directly from people on. I'm pretty sure that the school doesn't have the resources to support someone on like that's pretty far on the spectrum, like pretty far. Like they're verbal, but like they're way closer to like nonverbal than like like Asperger's or something that's like more of a quirk than like genuine like disability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, to put it, I don't know what terms are fucking woke enough, but like that's the way I conceive of it, right? Like there are people that are just like that like can generally like function in society, not maybe at the center of society or the front of society or however you want to structure it, but definitely exist within the margins of society like seamlessly. And then there are people who are on the spectrum where you're like, oh, and they stand out and difficult, and you know,
hence the spectrum.
we should question the reason that is so prevalent now. But like, and I do think a lot of it it's not just toxicological. I think a lot of it is behavioral and kind of it's just kind of programming, right? It's just general kind of programming of an individual, socializing of an individual.
I don't know enough about the topic.
It's just, I mean, I don't know. I'm working with these second graders. I'm like, I'm convinced, and this is kind of the hypothesis I floated to the staff and teachers I've talked to, is like these are kids that essentially, like for Waldorf education, they missed kindergarten, like the experience of kindergarten. The kindergarten's all about like fucking slowing down, embracing the magic in everyday moments, and like it's very kind of hippy dippy. Like Waldorf kindergarten's fucking awful. It's like fucking it's kind of fringe and fast adjacent, as I've described in different videos. However, I mean the general educational philosophy is okay, but and these second graders, they miss most of kindergarten and all of kindergarten basically because of COVID. Because you couldn't really justify kindergartners showing up because like they weren't there for they weren't really there for academics, because there's no state standard for kindergarten.
Don't you have to know the alphabet? Like 0 through 10 or something?
I don't think that's a state standard for kindergarten. I don't know what the state standards are, but basically they didn't really need to. Like, and the kindergartners only go to school from like they go 8:45 to like 12:15 or something. It's like 3.5 hours. It's like nothing. What is it?
Nothing.
State of California. You're like, dude, they have to multiply fucking double digit numbers against each other by the end of the fucking first grade.
Great. Oh, it just says kindergarten through grade 2. Anywho.
Oh, really? They set a standard K through 2?
Yeah.
Because that makes sense, because kids develop like pretty differently, but by the time they're my kids' age, like I'm just like, how I was like yesterday we did a bunch of math, and it's just like it's really not complicated. I don't know how to, like, it took me a while. Like I was able to help a couple, I think, better than others, but I'm like, I kept explaining it and it just wasn't clicking, and I was like, I don't know how to explain like concepts this basic.
Yeah.
Like If you said,
It's actually
well,
what
my mom
teaching
says that we shouldn't eat animals because animals are also like
people.
being with intrinsic value, and I would be like,
Guess I
oh,
gotta eat.
okay, counterpoint, counterpoint, counterpoint. And I would debate that shit all day long, highly intelligently, trying to explain place holding, like in numbers, like what a hundreds place and a tens place and a ones place is, and them just being like, oh, I don't get it. So I was like doing like color coded columns, being like, this is the word, because and it turns out after talking to several of them and then struggling with a few others, they didn't understand the written instruction because they don't fucking like most of them. Like they actually understand numbers better than words.
Okay.
So maybe the education system is functioning perfectly because it's making them mindless coding drones. The Girl Scouts are like, we're doing a coding badge. I was like, Jesus Christ,
No.
they're really set on getting you guys to be like the low wage workers of the fucking information future, right? Like,
Well, so anyway, I can't imagine. So I don't know if you went to public school or not. I did, and in kindergarten we learned 1 through 10, and then kind of like concept of zero a little, and then what you call it, and then we learned the alphabet and like colors and shit like that. I don't know.
yeah, like names, like right,
Yeah,
teaching you words, basic words.
birds. Yeah, yeah. You draw some stuff.
Yeah, a
You
couple
know.
basic animals,
Yeah,
dog, cat,
yeah.
bird.
Yeah. And then when you like draw a V and you're like, that's a bird in the sky. It's just really far away. And they're like, that's not very good art. And you're like, I don't care. I'm fucking
And they do it,
kindergarten.
and they're all like putting ink in a little fucking straw and being like,
Yeah.
you know, any fucking crazy ass like artists are like making a living off of advertising now. Like social media has totally changed like a lot of people's creative pursuits. Like,
Hmm.
you know, some things that like got me fucking watching them and actually subscribed to a few of them.
What's that?
It's people who make paper dragons. And then they're just putting music and text, like music and poppy music, and then like written text stories behind it. And they're having like the dragon just like fucking chill. And that's the whole YouTube short or TikTok. And yeah, they're only at like a few hundred subscribers, but like definitely I have seen other people doing the same thing with thousands and thousands and thousands of subs. And it's just like absurd. It's like their hobby. I like to make paper dragons, but now we're going to make it cool and catchy. And then people are just going to scroll and they'll stop for a second and we get paid.
I watch a lady who cleans dogs and cats.
Oh
Grooms them.
man,
Grooms
dude,
them.
some of my favorite are professions. I don't do
Yeah.
those, and I don't see them super often these days. But there was obviously a period that I saw them a lot, which was like the lawn edging, like cleaning overgrown shit.
Yeah.
Or
It's still out there.
oh no, I know it's there. Somebody's doing it. It's just not coming across my feed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys that pump septic tanks, plumbers, other like trades crafts.
Yeah.
Um,
Power washing.
yeah, power washing is another one. I see those. Yeah, and that shit's cool. And one of my favorites, I like woodworking. There's people who split wood or like refinish tools. Oh, people who refinish fucking like antique shit are the best. The ones who like sandblast it all the way down to like cast iron and then like polish every fucking screw and nut and then put it all back together and lubricate it. And like that's actually really fucking good.
Yeah, I
like
saw
that's incredible.
Saw one of the people. They were like, "Oh yeah, this is rusted beyond your recovery. I'm gonna have to, make a replacement for it. I'll try to stick as close to the original as possible." It's like, yep, I'm gonna run into that. It was like a little tiny toy oven.
Yeah. And if you can fabricate a near fucking especially with 3D printing, that's something I've seen a bunch of shit on 3D printing. I think probably because I had a long conversation about coding and 3D printing and other kinds of like STEM stuff. Like Girl Scouts lean heavy on STEM, which sucks because I'm coming in being like, I'm actually proficient at talking about and teaching about fucking nature and agriculture and
you're like, yeah, but we don't care about that stuff. We're gonna teach them to code. You know anybody that knows how to code? No.
I'm gonna teach them to code. Fucking, it was inevitable where they're just creating the fucking child workforce of the future, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of interesting futures, do you know what this background is?
Which background? My background?
Background on my side.
Oh, your background? No, what is that?
It is another, like last episode, it's another art grab from that fucking Zone 28 RPG rulebook. Like, this is part of the wood, and that's part of the fucking city, I guess you're going to. So it's just kind of setting some creepy ass shit up. It seems pretty kind of like pretty rad setting. I really actually want to play it because it seems like the perfect system for a one shot too.
How
do you again, it's like Zone 28 RPG. What's that?
So how do you even do a one shot?
I think that it could be a one shot or possible two shot.
Like, how many hours is that?
To play characters that are not. It could be very short. Depends on how much stuff you want to throw in their way.
How do you like tell a story in one session though? I don't get it.
Oh no, this is a place where like people go insane.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole setting is you are part of a scavenger. Like all the characters would be part of they're called stalkers, I guess, but they're basically part of like a salvaging or raiding party kind of system that's set up on the outside of this weird anomaly that was created by so there's like a subtext they don't really explain that I think is interesting, which is like 27 pieces of an alien spacecraft fell into an area that was under firm political control of this organization, right? This country, basically. But the other piece landed in an area that had been disputed, they had been warring over, and there was an ongoing territorial dispute. So no state could like quarantine it. And then it just became like its own thing where they were finding like all sorts of like super rare technologies, trying to figure out how to more efficiently kill each other. Right. So there's this backdrop of that, but the game setting is actually, this is as I understand it, the game setting is set in to a community where people like presumably the player characters exist on the edge of where this anomaly is. And so there's like bands. And so the anomalies are less weird and less intense further out.
Further away you get.
And they get worse the closer you get, but also the technologies that are found and the other insights that can be learned further in are so much more valuable. And then there's like a whole, like people get corrupted. There's all sorts of really kind of fascinating like monsters and boss monsters they've made. I mean, just to spoil it a little bit, like one of them's like there's termites as regular monsters, and there's a queen termite listed in the book as a boss monster. So I'm like, that's a one shot right there, right? Like they have to get through the first zone, and then fight the termite queen, and then they move into the second zone, and shit gets weirder. And it's not just monsters, like they come across like hazard, basically would be the equivalent of like traps and hazards. Shit like that. So
elaborate ruses.
Weird anomalies, and random shit that they can't explain, and that like, because it's kind of about madness too, right? Like, and the rule book or setting is clearly based on like, they list like 6 things. They're like, this is what this is based on. It's kind of a smash up of all these other things, and that's potentially how I became fascinated in it, because I've kind of been holding this concept that I wanted to take. There's 2 or 3. It's like Starhawk, and then also Octavia Butler, and also God, what's his name? His name is slipping my mind. I think we talked about him on the podcast before. But he's like a kind of like a science fiction futurist, kind of alternative dystopian or hopium future kind of guy. So there's like several people, like well-known, received authors who've written kind of like various interpretations of what the future of California looks like. Because they took place in California in some kind of future that's shaped by resource depletion, conflict, etc. And so I kind of wanted to like go through all of those things and smush them together into some kind of role-playing system or other thing. It's kind of an homage to that, and mostly because I love California. So yeah, so I thought that was very interesting that this RPG basically took like, it's like a movie. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Stalker. It's like a Russian movie. I just haven't sat down to watch it because it's fucking subtitled. And I'm just like, I don't know if I have the patience to sit in front of a screen for 2 hours reading subtitles. I'm sorry. I don't even read books for that long. I fucking listen to audio.
Well, and your TV is really small and really far away.
Is my TV's pretty big. It's like
no, not for that viewing
36 inches or something.
Not for that viewing distance. You need like a fucking 55-inch TV, maybe bigger if it's going to be in that corner. The couch is like 8 or 10 feet away.
What do you mean viewing distance? This is all new to me.
Oh boy. Okay, so every screen has an ideal viewing distance based upon its resolution, size, and therefore pixel density. And I think at like 6 to 8 feet, like a 55-inch television is going to give you the best viewing pleasure. And yours is like 36 at like 10 feet. It was so hard to see. I was like,
sorry.
It's all right.
I guess you're probably right. We just get used TVs from our parents.
Yeah.
I sold my TV and didn't have a TV forever, and then now we have a TV.
Hey man, you just have to convince them that they don't have a big. You have to convince them that their viewing distance is too large for the big TV they have.
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. So anyway, back to Ahsoka. Made a thing. Because freaking Ezra cannot stop contradicting himself. Of course, it's his ally. That's all I need. And then he makes a lightsaber and uses a lightsaber a whole bunch in the episode. Fan-fucking-tastic. I love it. I really don't think I could ever stop harping on that. He tried a different path and he failed in one episode. There we go. But then let's see, what else did I have? Oh yeah, like it's not such a big deal right now because it hasn't been very long. But like, since it seems like the show is going to continue, and Sabine is definitely going to be out in the wilderness with all the Noti and Ahsoka. When is she gonna run out of makeup? Because like she always has on that eye makeup, and I'm just like, that has to come from somewhere. And I suppose that the Noti probably have different forms of pigments that she could apply to her eyes, but like, do you just kind of give up after a while? You're like, it's too much effort in order to get it. Same goes for Shin Hati, except she does hers under the eye, I think. So it's just like, these two are going to start looking, pretty normal in a while. They're going to run out very soon. And I was just like, yeah, even if she makes the makeup from like local supplies and dyes and stuff like that, how are they going to do the hair dye? I'm just like, I really hope that by the time we come back to them, it's been several months and she's just got brown hair. I think that'd be kind of cool to show the passage of time.
So did you show this?
I did.
So can you explain it to me briefly, even though you just explained to everybody else?
Oh, well, in a prior episode, he had said he had refused a lightsaber, refused a blaster, and said the Force is my ally. That's all I'll need. And then one of the first things that you see a good guy do in this episode is fucking make a
build another lightsaber
for himself. Yeah.
See, I didn't like that.
I didn't either.
I'm sorry. I didn't like this episode. I thought that like it nailed it if you were looking for fucking hits of nostalgia, right? And fucking Easter eggs are like, oh yeah, I remember that from Rebels. Like him with the stormtrooper armor, and that whole ending seemed rushed. I think you put a question in the tracker. You're like, and how the fuck? Because I was thinking like, how do you stay hidden for like that entire? Because it wasn't a short trip. I think that they took care to show how great the distance was based on how long they were traveling on screen.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I'm more concerned with like how did he then? So he lays low, somehow manages to steal a ship. So does that mean he just posed as a stormtrooper for like a week or something like that? Like, let's assume it only took a week.
I mean, I guess they might have implied off screen that it happened somewhere, and they might write it into like a fucking joke or a quip, maybe at a future time when they interact. Yeah. Like fucking Ezra fucking takes a dig at Thrawn, being like, "Yeah, remember
your
fucking
stole your land.
I totally like caused all this havoc. Maybe like even set them back. I mean, the Chimera is like already so fucking pieced together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have to probably go to dry dock for like years potentially to get back to like its former glory, right? Like if we're really thinking about it. So Ezra could have sabotaged on the way out. Also, I see that you brought up, can you put that on the main screen? People showed the brother and were like, oh, look, it's the father and the brother and the sister is gone.
Yeah.
And I guess when they put the brother up next to it, it kind of did look like it could be the brother, but I think you didn't get a little Anakin, did you?
The little what?
It kind of has his jaw, like his angry jaw.
I mean, the brother had an angry jaw, and this guy's bald. So unless it like represents him after he was consumed by the fires of Mustafar, then it's probably not him.
Okay, well, whatever.
Would have been a fun theory.
I'd mentioned to Zach earlier that actually looked like Clone Wars Anakin. I've only watched new Rockstars. I watched part of Star Wars Explained Q&A, but they're mostly just reading fucking super chats and talking about people's theories. That people pay $10 or $20 or $100 to fucking
talk about
tell their theory on this show.
Yeah.
And to have it entertained by the hosts. They've made a very good thing there. They seem like wonderful, genuine people. Who have been able to make a living and start a family and run a family on what they're doing in their fucking basement.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? You guys did it. You figured the formula out. We existed before that was a thing, and we're left confused for the last several decades. Did we mention this is my 40th birthday stream? Can I lament about some of the missteps of my past?
Why don't you own any Bitcoin, Steve? Come on.
I don't own no fucking Bitcoin, bro.
Could have been a millionaire.
I know, right? I could have done a lot of things with my life, but you know what?
Didn't
I have the things that I'm into. Yep. Which is mostly like I drink a lot.
I'm really interested in intoxication, especially my own intoxication.
I'm really into doing substances of all kinds.
I don't know what you're talking about. Substances are so bad for you.
You said your fucking weed pen. Ridiculous.
Completely.
At any rate, I don't know. I thought the lightsaber scene, to go back to that. Come on, man. Like the whole point of like Hu Yang and his whole because I only think he had the one arc in the Clone Wars, like the couple episodes or whatever.
Yeah, where he took him to Ilum.
Yeah, it took him to Ilum, and then the pirates almost jumped him, and then it turned out to be fucking Hondo, I think. And so there was like a big adventure with Hondo. When's Hondo getting his fucking live action debut, bro? That's what I want.
Right. That would be a great show. I'd watch that.
I hope maybe in the movie Hondo shows up, like Ezra pulls a favor with him or something.
Yeah. He's like, I'm back, and you owe me one still. Fuck. You're right, I do. Or whatever the hell his accent is. I don't know. I have to watch it.
Yeah, no, that was what's his name as the James Vanderbeek as the fucking father vampire in Vampirina on Disney Junior.
Okay.
Hey, don't fucking knock Vampirina until you watch it.
I mean, I did watch Hotel Transylvania.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. Or
was it Vanderbeek was in Hotel Transylvania, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
The father in that one is what's his name? Sandler.
Yes, you're right. So James Vanderbeek must be Vampirina.
Right.
What's her name? Wanda Sykes plays a gargoyle in Vampirina.
nice.
They're just the character. It's a good show.
Yeah.
It's Disney Junior, but like all the characters are very well written.
Mm-hmm.
Like as far as like there's a grumpy gargoyle, and then there's this like kind of like flamboyant ghost, and so she's kind of like the frumpy dyke, and he's like the flamboyant boy toy, and like there's this dynamic between them. And then Vampirina's just like super innocent and great and happy, and her parents are like the ideal parental couple, kind of like if you stripped what are the Adams' names? Morticia and
Gomez.
And Gomez Adams, if you strip them of their like fucking hypersexuality,
Mm-hmm.
like it would be her Vampirina's parents. Like they love each other clearly and they love their kids, but like they're not that weird. Yeah.
Need them to
they
be
had,
more
they had
weird.
a skeleton chef. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's I forget his name, but he was the animated skeleton that was like the cook of the house or whatever. Remy Bones, I think was his name.
How does he taste stuff to make sure?
Chef Remy, that was it. Thank you for the person who said that in the chat.
Nobody said anything in the chat.
I wish there were people in the chat to be
right.
Like,
where are you?
That's what I do when I watch live streams. People are like, "What was that thing? What was it?" It's like, "Oh yeah, thanks, thank you."
Yeah.
People are pointing out what it was.
So let's see. Thrawn says, "It's for the Empire, the security of our galaxy," and I question, huh?
And what did she say?
Oh, I don't know.
She said for Dathomir under her breath.
Okay. Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, I was just saying, more along the lines of do you think that Thrawn really, drinks his own Kool-Aid, or is he just like, doing it to look like he's still loyal to some concept of the Empire?
No, I think he said something in there, but I could be completely wrong, because last time we talked about Ahsoka, I was like, I think there's a good chance Ezra's like, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, we had spoken about that, and I'm horribly disappointed.
And I am too. I think that the choice they made was kind of like, I get that it set something else up, but that's the difference between like just wanting good stories and being committed to dragging these fucking characters through a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
When you could just have the character be what it is and then depart with said character in a dignified way. We just talked about Dianne Feinstein last night or the last time.
Give these people dignified deaths.
Yeah. Allow people to have a dignified exit.
Well, what they're going to do with Ezra.
Why is our culture so fucking afraid of death?
That is unreasonable too, given how many people claim that it's a Christian nation and all that. And it's like, if that were true, you should all be looking forward to death.
Well, I mean, that's I think a
whole
fucking conversation. I mean, we literally could do a whole fucking Monday just on the concept of death and everything about it. Funeral. We could talk about different funeral preparations and even the legality around said ones, because I want
to be eaten by
all the murder porn people are totally into natural burial now, and there's all sorts of natural burial advocacy because of true crime people.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I just want to get picked clean by a bunch of buzzards. Sounds cool.
It's called excarnation. It's actually in my fucking will. Although I need to update my will, I definitely want to be excarnated. I don't think you can do it legally.
Not here.
And what's going to happen is they're going to be like, I don't know how to make that happen. And this dead person's wishes only matter so much.
Yeah.
They could in their will be like, and I will be reincarnated as a god, right? It doesn't fucking matter.
No, enough people need to believe in it until it happens. So what my plan, or I think the plan for Ezra is, and I'm borrowing this from somebody else that I saw, that is he's going to pull out his rideshare app, and he's going to hitch a Pergil ride.
Where?
Back to go get Ahsoka and all them.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they are setting up. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I definitely see Ezra and Hera having to deal with military stuff. I think Thrawn mentioned that there, or kind of said something that alluded to there might being a greater threat in the galaxy, right? And yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do, but I have a feeling that conflict will go on, and then because like they didn't make like the warlord was that Thrawn. I thought they kind of were referring to Thrawn because the only one spoiler I did get was that Rebel Force Radio always puts the title of the episode in their show show title, their after show title,
right?
And since they had scheduled the after show after it was released, they used the title. So I knew the title, and that was the only thing I did. I avoided everything else.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because it took me like, I think I watched it at like 1 a.m. on fucking Wednesday or something. So it was like 6 hours later or whatever.
Yeah.
At any rate, I knew the title, and I thought the title was fucking cheesy. I was like, yeah, people were joking early on. Oh, it's like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And then they straight up make a fucking episode title that's like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Stupid. But it works. And so my question was Thrawn the warlord? I think that when I saw that title, I was like, oh, he's the warlord. And then I saw somewhere that like the whole Shin coming up on that group of people that she had already kind of led was implying that she would kind of take over that faction as a warlord.
Yeah.
And then now
that
what
makes
are
the Jedi Sabine, the witch, what's her name? Ahsoka. And then the warlord is Shin. There you go.
Oh.
Because I mean, she's not a very
the witch
Jedi.
The witch was Morgan Elsbeth.
No, I know that, but I'm saying if you're like looking forward into the show, not back, who's left to fulfill those roles? And Ahsoka's pretty close to being a witch. You know, she doesn't really, you know, she still practices all the forms, but you know, she doesn't like go to church necessarily and study the Jedi dogma. So I could very quickly see her becoming more like a Force witch than anything else.
Yeah, I think that the ending was, I mean, I think it kind of led the places many of us kind of naturally thought it was. Like we knew it was going to be more to Scott, or there was a very small list of things, and we still know very little about this. And in fact, I think I heard that as a complaint was like, we went in hoping to get a lot of questions answered, and we got some of the questions that we've had all season answered.
Yeah.
But we were left with many more questions asked.
I mean, isn't that the sign of a good show? Keep you engaged, keep you guessing, and then be totally upset when something goes different. God damn it.
People liked fucking the Force Awakens and then hated The Last Jedi, and I was like, Force Awakens kind of gay, and then I was like, fucking Last Jedi is the fucking shit.
They're all shit, dude. I'm sorry.
They all suck. Yeah. But I thought The Last Jedi was the most interesting of the three.
You know what's not going to suck? The Acolyte. Yeah. I'm really hoping that they'll avoid a whole lot of the twirly nonsense in this one. Because I saw yet more twirly nonsense over and over again. People twirling around, dancing like it's freaking ballet. And especially Ahsoka was deflecting blaster bolts, and you see her from behind, and she's like, what the hell is that? Oh man, weird choreography choices. I don't know. It just doesn't look real most of the time.
I think it's meant to be fast paced. I am kind of impressed. So to say good things about the show, I am impressed with the level. Like, yeah, we might not have agreed that that's like actual like logical fighting.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, just found out the Waldorf school does fucking fencing.
Do it. Sign them up.
No, it's not. It's part of like their curriculum.
Oh, it's compulsory.
So, like, in a particular grade, they do fencing.
Hell yeah. Look it up.
I think it's like the 5th or 6th grade, maybe 7th grade. They do I just saw, I don't know, 6 or 8 kids all fencing. And that's the thing. It's like this elementary school just purges kids. By the time they get to junior high school, there's almost no one left. Their classes, like there's 30 kids in the 1st and the 2nd and the 3rd grade. By the time they get to 6th, 7th, 8th grade, there's fucking, there's 7, 8 kids in those classes.
Well,
like how do you lose fucking 2/3 of your class?
My first thought is because like the parents are eventually like, oh, you haven't taught them math yet. Yeah, we're getting out of here.
Yeah, I mean, part of it also might be just because like there are more like dedicated arts and music schools. Like there are other options once you get to junior high school. There's not a lot of like alternative education charters. There's like the Waldorf, the Montessori, and then there's another one called Open Class. It's like based on the open classroom concept. And they all have very small enrollments. I think the Montessori has the best enrollment. It's the hardest to get into, but it's also probably in one of the most convenient fucking locations, and it's a good school.
What do you keep applying every year?
I think I don't know. I think all Montessori also straddles the line between like the esotericism of Waldorf and the kind of just like practical. This is a shit you got to learn kind of attitude of the public school system.
Got to learn to do your taxes.
I think Montessori is the Bendu. It is the Bendu, the one in the middle. I don't know why I said that like fucking Bill Cosby.
The one in the middle with the protein pop.
The one in the
Sabine, man, she said, I've been practicing my lightsaber. She wasn't kidding.
I did not like anything that happened with her character.
You don't like the unlocking?
Like, again, it was kind of like they had prepped us for it. They were kind of like implying earlier in the season that like one of the big things you'll get out of this is Sabine can use the Force. And I was like, I don't need Sabine to use the Force. Like, I would have much rather them approach that as like, hey, like you're a warrior and like we need to spread a philosophy of fucking warriors because war is fucking terrible. And like, I'm a child soldier, you're a child soldier. Like, because remember, she was also still a teenager.
Yeah.
When she was first like recruited to go to the Empire's school and then defected to the rebellion. I think she was a teenager still, like during the time of Rebels.
I think at the first season, it was supposed to be he was 15 and she was 16, or maybe it was 14 and 15. But yeah, it was kids.
I thought they were a couple years apart. They were just far enough apart to where there was like a maturity difference, but it could have also been just because Sabine's life was substantively different.
Yeah, I mean, she would have been, raised as Mandalorian culture, where it would have been very serious all the time, and he was just like, you goof around for laughs.
Yeah, I didn't like the lightsaber stuff to conclude on that because like they had made it, especially with Hu Yang involved before. That made it like a bicker thing where Hu Yang and Ezra are like really bantering back and forth in a familiar way, while like he's basically being like, yeah, I remember your master, not like I remember you, but just like, I don't know. It just felt kind of weird and cheap. And like the whole thing that made that arc in the Clone Wars magic was like these young, not even Padawans, they're younglings. They haven't even been selected by a master to train as a Padawan.
Right.
So they could go off into the agricultural corps. They could go off into like some backwater world to teach fucking composting toilets, but kind of have a Force affinity, right? And have a basic background in a particular like philosophy of life.
Composting toilets and Force lightning. Those are the two things I know.
They all made their lightsabers and had to essentially go through Jedi trials, or like basically mini trials.
Yeah.
And overcome physical and like a lot of their fear, like physical and mental kind of blocks, and overcome them using the Force and learn more about themselves and learn more about teamwork and all these fantastic lessons that you would want to teach young people. And then it was special because they also levitated their lightsabers into place, and he's just like, oh, give me that part.
Yeah.
And it's like much more mechanical. It's like it's a machine. And yes, you can be like, oh, well, you focus your energy through the crystal. But like I really liked it when like the making of the lightsaber was a ritual. And maybe the first one is, because I think they showed Ezra make his first lightsaber. No, he still screwed some shit together. I don't think he levitated parts.
Okay.
At any rate, it was a kind of a mini trial for him to get his crystal.
Yeah.
That was in the Jedi Temple on Lothal.
I think a lot of the times when it shows them like levitating it together, it's supposed to kind of represent how you have to use the Force to pull it back apart in order to maintain it. And so like, ooh, mystical, only the Jedi can make it. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure that if you had all the stuff, you could throw one together. It wouldn't be attuned or whatever, but it would still work.
I don't know why I never thought about just equipping a fucking NPC with one.
Always,
like, especially like say like if you're like tried to rob some artifact from an aristocrat. And it turns out that one of the artifacts he's collected over his years is a fucking lightsaber, and he pulls it out. And so he's not the feeble one with all his fucking badass guard minions running around, but he's actually like the fucking nemesis, and he's like wielding lightsaber and shit.
Do you remember?
But doesn't have the force. That'd be fucking sick.
Do you remember in the old D6, the Tapani sector, and it had the foil rakes? Yeah. I mean,
I don't recall a lot of details. I just like
it was just shitty lightsabers. I like that were prone to breaking down.
Species that came out of Tapani sector.
Yeah, the Herglick.
Was Herglick in Tapani?
Yeah, pretty sure.
There was like a cat lake species there. I forget. There was a few cat lake species in Star Wars, so I forget which one it was.
Are you thinking of the Triani?
Triani, yeah,
because they're from the corporate sector, not the Tapani sector.
Oh, I'm incorrect.
They are the Tapani Rangers who chase off pirates and help people in need. And
they chase off pirates.
And probably take from the rich and give to the poor. I don't know.
There are so many stories to tell in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Why do we need to retell the story of these fucking characters? Why do we have to take them along such a cliche trajectory as characters?
Yeah.
Let Ezra stay. Let Natasha Liu Bordizzo and fucking Rosario Dawson are both good enough actors, I think, to handle that situation. And I think Ismani or whatever his fucking name is, the guy who plays Ezra. I should know his name, but I don't.
I know anybody's name.
But I think he did a fantastic job, and I don't want to digress too much. I think that he probably was one of the better adaptations from cartoon to screen. They did a very, very good job. He, as an actor, did a very good job.
You know who didn't do a very good job? Fight choreographers.
You just derailed me. I was saying something.
Go ahead.
About Ahsoka and Sabine.
Mm-hmm.
You derailed me. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
This is like the worst stream ever.
It is. It's
like I've lost my place like 10 fucking times. Yeah. And part of that's because I started drinking super early and I like smoked a couple joints when I got home.
Oh my god. Why didn't Ahsoka keep the Blade of Talzin? Did it immediately like teleport somewhere after the fight was over? Because if they summoned it, it seemed like they could summon it again.
Yeah, they can summon.
Weird. Or
no, not really.
Force creation or just...
Oh, no, dude.
Because Talzin was a person. I forget.
She was the leader.
Yeah, back in the other galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it must be a summoning thing. So apparently they can just summon stuff from far, far away.
They can summon all sorts of shit. They can summon shit out of thin air.
I don't know enough about the Night Sisters anymore.
Well, there was when they found... So remember when, and we mentioned this last week, Dooku got rid of Ventress.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ventress went and recommitted herself with the same ritual that was taken by Morgan Elsbeth in this last episode, right? And recommitted herself to the Witches of Dathomir, and then she was given some magics to be like invisible, and she was given some sidekicks, and they tried to assassinate Dooku like several times, and failed each time, and then Dooku and Insidious also said fucking Talzin's gotta go. Like she kind of took it too far. Like we were kind of always just kind of like weak allies, but like she's been fucking with too much shit. She's trying to assassinate you. And obviously you didn't kill your Padawan like I told you to, right? Like she survived. You let her survive. Because if you were brutal, you would have fucking done it. You must have hesitated, right? Like her being alive means that either you're weak or you hesitated. At any rate, yeah, and then they wiped them all out, right? So during that wiping out, they did a resurrection ritual, and it was identical to the resurrection ritual they used with the stormtroopers. I'm glad we were validated. I thought they were fucking zombies, and then a bunch died in the last episode, and people are like, oh, I guess they're not zombies, and then they fucking resurrected them as zombies.
Yeah. Like, oh, I guess they can be zombies. That was pretty funny. It's like, oh yeah, our magics will protect them. not protection. That's resurrection. That's protection with extra steps.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like a lot of stuff. I thought that pushing Sabine to become like a fairly decent Force user, like
Pretty quick,
instantly.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't necessarily have the same Mary Sue complaints that a lot of people do about fucking Rey and the
Well,
sequel trilogy, but like, I felt if you were gonna make it difficult, like you didn't. She tried to use it a couple times. You made it like the backdrop of the story for like an episode or two. Didn't
yeah.
address it for like 3 or 4 fucking episodes, and then came in to be like, oh, I've been working so hard. I'm like deflecting blaster bolts and like doing all sorts of shit. I don't know.
I don't think it's quite so bad because if you think about it, basically she's already gone through in terms of like time spent working on things. Like how much effort did Luke put in episode 4? Almost none.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're
and so she's definitely put in way more effort. Yeah. So like anybody who's like, oh, she just got it. It's like I think she's put in more effort than Luke Skywalker did by the end of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I always
So, like,
maintain Luke was the fucking OG Mary Sue. Is that you cannot call Rey fucking Palpatine Skywalker, whatever. You can't call Rey fucking a Mary Sue if you don't acknowledge the inherent Mary Sue in fucking Luke.
Yeah.
He had 0 training.
Mm-hmm.
At least she was on Octu for like a good chunk of time and trained. Plus, she was training by herself with Leia as a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Leia didn't complete her training, but Leia did have an understanding of the Force.
Yeah.
And did have a lot of wisdom to offer in terms of willpower and those other kinds of things that come into play to assist a Force user in using the Force. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the kind of mental fortitude, I guess you could call it.
How to resist Force torture.
Yeah. How to resist torture. Yeah, I don't know. I think that she did have a lot of training. And Luke did not. Luke had. I think we've discussed this. We agreed that it would be maybe it was a 36 or 48 hours at most from Tatooine to fucking Alderaan.
Yeah.
Especially I think most of the supplemental like non-canon stuff said the official, or maybe it is canon. I don't know. I thought the Falcon had a 0.5 hyperdrive.
It did, yeah.
Which is like pretty much the most advanced like the fastest hyperdrive you can get.
Yeah.
So the fastest you could go is about a day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah.
Like,
and so he's barely gotten any training. By the end of it, he's like,
because you have sleep.
Yeah.
You have to eat. You have to, it's not all. I mean, you probably spend a good chunk of that training. Because what else are you gonna do? You're trapped in a fucking. It's like, why is everybody that gets arrested, even the guy who got arrested for like writing bad checks, like comes out like a fucking jail completely fucking jacked? And it's just because like, what else are you gonna fucking do? Like, you're locked in a fucking box where like working out is something they're like, yeah, you can work out.
Yeah, go ahead, get jacked. So this. I had it in order. We haven't talked in order, which is fine. But back to the Mortis gods. I thought it was an interesting thing because at some point during the Mortis arc, I swear the father says like they can basically like be outside of time and travel in time. That gave me, I think that gives them an easy way to recast Balin. Because they could have him come back as a younger man. Yeah, like basically use the Mortis world to like, whether it's getting a younger version of himself and like training him really quick, like outside of time. And then he's the one who finishes everything. I don't know. Or if he just, uses, let's just say it, the magics of Mortis to, you revivify his body and come back as, either a much younger body or like even just a slightly younger body, and just recast him as someone who looks similar enough.
Yeah, and I don't even, on the recast question, I have no problem. And I think we might have talked about this last time.
We did a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like recast Luke, recast Leia. I don't give a fuck. Like, if they're central to the story, then do it. And do it in a way that honors the character and honors the person who, in our minds, was that character.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Mark Hamill would be like, I would love more really badass Luke. Right? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I think he was disappointed with the way he was written in the sequel trilogy, which I don't bug him.
No, he said
they paid him. I'm sure they paid him well, but they gave him very little screen time.
Yeah, and he has said, that wasn't who Luke Skywalker was. I wanted it to be very different. It wasn't, but moving on.
And I'm totally fine. I
really wished. I think what happened is they were like, holy shit, most of the actors are still alive. I think all of them at the time. Like, let's do this before we can't do it. And it's like, I really wish that the movies had taken place like a little bit further away. I've always said I wish that they were set further in the future, so that there like was no Skywalkers or anything like that. Like the line died out or something like that. Just get rid of all the big names. But nope, they doubled down on the old, kept the Skywalker, kept the fucking Palpatine, and they're just like, nostalgia. Eat them member berries. You like them.
You remember
Chewbacca?
Remember Han Solo and Millennium Falcon?
I remember.
Beautiful, beautiful fucking satire by fucking South Park.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't get much better than that very often. I don't know. Overall, I thought the series was okay. I think I will watch it again. And I highly suspect it will have a significant amount of rewatch value for me. As I mentioned before, I tried to watch fucking Book of Boba Fett twice and could not. I have not tried to watch Kenobi, and I don't think I've yet watched season 3 of Mandalorian again. But I've seen the first 2 seasons a couple times.
So much of them I have no desire to see again. Like, I don't care about the Kenobi series at all, and I hope they take that as a note and don't try to give it to me again. I don't give a shit. But like, you're just
did you watch the whole thing though?
I did, but you're just filling in a few blanks here and there. I'm like, it's not worth it. There's no danger. We know he's not going to die. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, there was very little I liked about the show. I would be down to rewatch it if we could bullshit about it. You sound like you don't want to rewatch it.
Not really. I'll just watch someone who recaps it for me or something.
Yeah. I think my biggest issue with that show is there was a lot of big issues with the show. I did like some of the world building. So back to Ahsoka, world building, top notch.
Yeah.
They fantastic fucking job painting a picture. I was really upset that the Noti seemed to get thrown away because they spent 2 episodes making them seem really cool. And then Ezra straight up chose to bounce on. And it's not just because I was invested in Ezra's made his home here with the Noti, and now he's not going to go join the big call to adventure. Yeah. Right? Just stop there on. But I do think that they could have just included another 60. These episodes are so fucking short.
Yeah.
Would it have taken so much more time? I guess because they'd have to set up another shot, right?
Well, no, but I mean,
would it have taken so much time to do a quick shot of him just saying, even if you're just you're like, oh, that's a wrap on that shot, and you're like, oh, hey, wait a second, hey, will you go over there and hug and you guys act like you're saying goodbye? And it would have taken boom, 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 and they have a fucking 3 or 4 or 5 second clip to fucking be like, boop, see, he said goodbye to them.
Yeah,
and they missed those opportunities, man.
Yeah,
because he should have said, because they fucking maintained his existence for a long time, as we said last time, longer than he was with the Ghost crew. These people, this species, this band of the species kept his ass alive and kept him safe, and he kept them alive and safe.
Yeah,
and it was a mutualism, and they just he just oh, they're done. They get shot at, and it's oh, you got to kind of feel bad. And the other thing is too, there was so much tension in the previous. Remember, I said a lot of people didn't like last episode, and I was I really liked that. I thought the action was well done. I thought the fucking stakes were high. I thought the pacing was good. And then you get this episode, and what is the first fucking third of this movie, or the first third of this show was wrapping up all the fucking questions we had about where was Ezra and where was Thrawn when they got here? Because they both been here for 10 years, but apparently haven't been interacting with each other. And et cetera, et cetera. And so they spent like the first third of the show or this episode just catching us up on all of the stuff, all the questions we had from the beginning up to this point through the show.
Yeah. When does Rebels end? Is it like right before A New Hope?
Yes.
Okay.
Part of Rebels, I think season 4 or might be season 3 was them extracting Mon Mothma from after she gave her speech renouncing the Empire and resigning from the Senate, and she went into exile. Which I really, really, really think I don't want Andor to really feel necessary to tie in, but considering Mon Mothma is a major character in that show, I would have zero issues if like the one of those story arcs towards the end of Andor tied in to connect Mon Mothma with like the Rebel crew and all that other shit.
Yeah.
And show a live action hollow transmission of her speech to unite all of Luthen's cells into an actual formal political military organization, insurgency.
Yeah.
To formalize the insurgency, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So apparently he spent like 4 or 5 years with the Rebels, and then he spent like 11 to 12 on Peridea. And yeah, he chose not to stay on Peridea. So strange to me. Unless he's just like, I really got to go back to Lothal. Huh?
There's no way he was with the Rebels for 10 years.
No, 4 years, 4 or 5.
Oh, 4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah.
He was there on Peridea for 10 or 12.
Yeah. And so he spent almost like 3 times as much time on Peridea as he did with them. And it's like, like
exactly. Although he was kind of born a rebel, like right, his parents were.
I mean, I might not be normal, but I also like didn't really stay friends with a whole bunch of people that I served with in the military. Like, well, time and distance has made it difficult, and like I don't really.
Yeah, I don't talk to anybody I served with.
So
I occasionally talk to one person I was in Afghanistan with, but both of us were civilians at that point.
Yeah, and so like I can't see.
Marine. He was fucking crazy, but he was cool. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I can't see Ezra being like overly attached to the people that he only knew for years. And like,
well, I think they've been through a lot together. I definitely think they're attached.
Okay.
But I definitely think that and I think that he's attached. He wanted to go back to Lothal, right? Because they liberated Lothal in his moment, like in the moment he sacrificed himself to liberate his homeworld. And I think he did have a strong connection to his homeworld. Okay. It was his home. Like he kept like even in that 4th season of Rebels when Mon Mothma's like, speaking of that character, was like, we can't really commit the resources to go there because we don't think it's enough. And then their group is like, no, he's got this factory. He's building this fucking ship that's fucking crazy, crazy good. And we won't be able, like, we can't compete with it in that space.
Yeah.
Like it's a military technology that will make our defeat certain, right?
Yeah, basically like they're guys in pickup trucks with rifles, and he's building tanks.
Yes, exactly. It's like a light tank with a machine gun, right? And a small cannon versus like a fucking 50 cal in the back of a fucking pickup truck.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Like Toyota Hilux with a 50 cal. They kind of serve the same battlefield function, but they don't have the same longevity, unfortunately.
Should have gone with a Ford.
Speaking of which, I've been thinking about buying a car.
You already have a car.
I know I do.
And a truck.
I think you got me on the fucking bug. I'm just doing math, bro. Remember,
are you doing gas math?
What's that?
I said, are you doing gas math?
Gas math, yeah.
Yeah.
Because realistically speaking, like I am perfectly aware of what, like I've been dude preaching fucking peak oil amongst my friend circle for like, I don't know, since 2011 at least.
Yeah. I think
it's been well over a decade. So I know, I just kind of go, cheap car, okay, I don't drive much, it's not a lot of gas. Well, gas gets up to $6 a gallon. And I also like, you know, at this point I'm maintaining 2 vehicles because I need a pickup for some things, and I have a passenger car for like my daily driving.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I could just get like one pickup truck. We've been looking at the Ford Maverick, which is like a hybrid that has a pretty low MSRP. So maybe we can talk offline about it. Brooke was on Reddit. Most of the reviews are okay. I think Car and Driver gave it a 10 out of 10, and Edmonds and Kelly Blue Book gave it 7.5 and like 9 or 4.6 out of 5. 7.5 out of 10 and a 4.6 out of 5 respectively, or something like that. It's not great, but not bad.
Yeah.
You know, probably averages a low 90, like like an A- or something, which like might be, you know, it gets 40 miles to the gallon on the fucking in the city.
Yeah.
And like 35 on the highway.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at calculating my math to drive down to fucking out to the desert next month.
So
I told him $400 and he was like, yep, done. Because I did the math and it was like, okay, I'll do the low end of my fuel economy. Can you play the actually, can you just hold on a second? I know we're right at the end, but
okay. Well, I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, we were going to talk about McCarthy getting ousted by Gates since it's a historical first, but it seemed kind of boring and we're not really in a position to have a good conversation about that. So, you know, instead we push it off a little bit. And we're also going to talk about flooding in spongy cities. So you have that to look forward to. I don't think they're actually made of sponges. They're not. But it's a cool idea nonetheless. It's been put forward in practice in China, and like there's a lot of other places that have done it as well that have what do you call it? Have just different names for it. And it's just the idea that you just make the water go down and, you know, go away, and not with tubes and stuff, but just with the earth there being able to handle it. And it's based upon somewhat anecdotal in some cases, and some actual great studies in other cases. So cool concept. We'll talk about it more later on. Yeah, exactly. There you are.
Yeah, man. I overall, I just kind of, you know, want more. I hope that it's not going to happen, but I pray to Christ.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a religious man, but I pray to Christ that Dave Filoni, like, just fucking see. Like, I'm pretty sure Tony Gilroy's a pretty fucking rad dude. I bet if you're like, can you give me 2 hours out of your time? I'm gonna take you out to lunch. Give me 2 hours of your time. And he says, please help me be a better scriptwriter. I bet Dave Filoni could come out of there and like level up in script writing just by a 2-hour conversation. I have no doubt. Because like, I get he's got all his teases and he wants to get all his fucking nostalgia, fucking Easter egg bullshit in there.
Yeah.
And you miss on all the good points. Like, she struggled using the Force, and there was this like, okay, you wanted this grand thing, but then you just followed it up with a bunch of scenes where she's just using the Force like she had it the whole time.
What if that's what it's like, though? You know, like, what if you're studying for something, you're doing really shitty at it, you know, and then one day you just
the
have a
block
breakthrough.
is really that they weren't like working well together, and I guess they resolved that finally, right? That was like in the background for like 2 or 3 episodes, and then they finally had a conversation, right? And so in the grand scheme of things, compared to Book of Boba Fett, they did a very good job telling a story and having characters that interact in that story. I think it just feels a little a little plastic, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
It feels predictable, but just not predictable enough for us to fucking understand exactly what's going on. But we understood Mortis gods are probably going to be involved in his quest, and like by last episode, I think most of us were like, yeah, they're not going to resolve like fucking any of this.
Yeah. Too much going on for that to happen.
Yeah. I think most of us predicted necromancy, but that's also pretty established for the Night Sisters and canon.
Yeah.
In the Clone Wars or whatever, and Rebels too, there was some necromancy or like spirit possession or whatever. Dark magic shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they did an overall good job of world building. I think the score was fucking amazing. I think in your notes you had mentioned you didn't like the screech of the violin.
It was just very horny and
why?
Well, I know that it's been done so many times before that it's cliche.
It is cliche. It's a common trope, but it's also like a super famous thing. So they're bringing in just a phrase that's like super well known.
What's that?
And I think that's fine, right? Like, there was some kind of cinematography stuff. There was an episode of The Mandalorian. You remember the first one with Mix Mayfield, Bill Burr's character? And they like in the Twi'lek, they were trying to boost the Twi'lek off the Republic ship, doing the prison break.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a really weird and forgettable episode because it's just a fucking filler, right?
Right.
Grogu's not even in that one. But I actually like that one because of how innovative it was in some ways. Like, it was so vastly different than all of the other episodes. It was clear that director came in and said, I want to do an episode that has like way different cinematography, way different music styling. It just feels super different. And they were like, yeah, go for it. Right? And all they needed to do was include Mando to go on the ship on the mission with them, and all the characters, all their backstories were new, right? Like, Mando had a fucking relationship with this fucking Twi'lek chick, like, and all of that, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was a very interesting episode that had a lot of story stuff and a lot of like interesting filmmaking techniques, like unique filmmaking techniques in terms of sound and how they film things, camera angles, all that other stuff. Very, very good, well edited and mixed. But I don't know. I like the score in the show, and I generally like the basic premise of it. I felt in a lot of ways that even though you could definitely see and feel the volume in a lot of cases, I think they did at least include enough kind of like, even though it was all CG, they did provide enough kind of like wide angle stuff that the universe didn't feel small, which was like really the issue with. I mean, there were a lot of issues again, but Boba Fett and Kenobi also suffered from feeling very small.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
the volume is a fucking trap. That's why Andor was so good.
Yeah.
Think of how many different the volume you can't like. You have to render a whole background. You got that. Like, let's film the scene on this background. In Andor, they built a fucking set, and so if they don't like the way that a shot comes off from this angle, they're like, have the camera come down the stairs. Let's see what that looks like when the camera approaches the characters at the bottom talking. Let's have the camera come down the stairs. And they look at that and they're like, ooh, that's fucking good. That gives it a kind of different tension. They're filmmaking in a real way.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't do that in a volume. It's just production bullshit. And so and I'm okay with a Star Wars that kind of meets, like, checks some basic boxes, right? And like meets a minimum bar. Mm-hmm. And it is, in fact, it's quite fun. I think they failed to deliver on the best characters. Mm-hmm. And it's a damn shame, but that's okay. And overall, the show wasn't dog shit. And that's kind of a pretty important fucking
It's kind of the bar now. Yeah, that's where the bar lies. Is it dog shit? Disney's putting out a lot of dog shit recently.
I also didn't think season 3 of The Mandalorian was dog shit. I liked it. I didn't think it was like great, but I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I watch them and they pretty much go in one, ear and out the other. Yeah, by the end of it, like, I remember the broad strokes of the stories, but like, I don't remember, everything that happened in The Mandalorian. It's a cool story. I like that, Pedro Pascal got to be, daddy for another character. Seems to be his lot in life.
Right. Another thing, I think that like a lot of these shows are just, they suffer from their own fucking. I just think that there are some circumstances, kind of like with these second graders, is a nice tie-in between like the real life shit and the fantasy that we drowned our nihilism in, right? Like, or we attempt to like submerge our nihilism in to keep it hidden from the masses. I think the second graders are very similar in the entertainment space to things like Kenobi, where it's like, and things like fucking the last season of The Walking Dead, or the last 2 seasons, I should say, of The Walking Dead. Like, COVID fucked a lot of shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking to Brooke, because I think I might have mentioned to you that Ahsoka was going out of business, or the pork operation was going out of business, or they were closing it up, right?
Okay. Yeah,
they're trimming the fat. The guy who's actually in charge of that ranch and that estate and those millions and millions and millions of dollars, and like now like at least a dozen or so fucking trust fund babies, like the patriarch in charge of all that had to make some decisions, I think, as he nears the end of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And they trimmed the fat, which included the things he was prejudiced against, like his son's fucking pork operation that was running on the farm, right? Like they were growing most of the food, they were doing all this stuff. So, and Brooke was suggesting it might be just splitting the estate, right? Like you can't reasonably split the estate, but then also have like part of the estate be the son's pet project, right? Because that's a disproportionate. Like that stays, and then you guys get paid from, you each divvy out the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
Or however, it doesn't really matter, but they got rid of the pork operation. And Brooke is like, there's probably like, talking to a lot of the people they supplied to, we're like, yeah, well, like a big chunk of our menu like had your pork on it because we liked your pork, and now we don't have a big chunk of our menu, and like we were already fucking struggling because of COVID and because of inflation and because of all these. So there's now like that guy made a decision for his own bottom line and for the bottom line of his trust fund babies to end a particular agricultural operation that may not have been as profitable as the others, right? They trimmed the fat, the one that was least profitable, get rid of it. Most expensive and least profitable, right? So they got rid of that, and now there's probably going to be, I'd probably say at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen restaurants across all of Northern California that go out of business.
Just because they can't get that particular pork?
Yeah. Because they built their business around a couple strong menu items like good pork chops or something like that. And they're just like, okay, our pork's going away. We can't get this good a pork anywhere.
Yeah.
Because the only people producing pork are these like fucking pork mega farms.
Right.
And that's the thing that vegans don't understand. Is that you want laws to like prevent people. Well, you're never going to get rid of meat, number one. So instead you spend a lot of time making it harder for fucking small producers. And then all you do is reinforce. They don't understand that it actually makes the situation worse because it's less humane when it's concentrated. But like you made it impossible for small producers who actually like interact with their animals in a real way.
Yeah.
Like in a familiar way, and the kind of way they interact with those animals to actually treat them ethically. And and you make it impossible for anybody to exist, anybody to make a profit and make a livelihood, a dignified livelihood out of ethical treatment of animals by just layering laws on it and not understanding that more bureaucracy just makes it more expensive to play.
Yeah.
And that the more that people have to pay to play, the more they're going to cut corners on animal welfare.
Yeah.
And yet again, this has been Steve Against Vegans. I'm your host, Steve. Wait. No, that's a different podcast. That's a Rumble-only podcast.
What the hell is Rumble?
No, I don't. What? What's Rumble?
It's Rumble.
Rumble's the alternative to YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Odyssey and Rockfin both tried. Rumble is the one that stuck. Rumble's also the one where I went on to be like, I'm gonna go watch something from Russell Brand, and then it was like, oh, I'm watching a Trump rally now, and it's like, and then I'm watching these guys from Europe that are talking about this old story and giving like half the facts and being like, this Muslim lady wants to kill all white people. That's why she killed this little girl. Even though if you like do a Google search and like read a fucking article that cites like fucking the police investigation, they're like, oh no, this bitch was fucking crazy.
As many people who want to kill other people are.
With the victim being white, the victim literally lived on like a floor of the apartment. It was like a kind of a crime of opportunity. It wasn't like premeditated, like I'm gonna kill this little white girl because I hate white people. But the way this fucking podcast talked about it, you're like, holy shit, we need to arm ourselves and protect ourselves against the darkies.
So stick on YouTube. Got it.
No, it's just I don't know. I was just joking. Not about that. That was real. I saw that. But I went on Rumble and it's fucking didn't look like a space I wanted to hang out with. But I just made the joke about having a podcast on Rumble because I said something edgy and I was like, I don't know. I don't remember what it was. It's not important. Music's been playing. This has been with Thunder's Applause. Thank you for sticking with us for so long. It's been an hour and a half. Most of it was rubbish. I hope you don't watch this. If you caught any part of this, just forget that it exists. Maybe check in when we have our minds and
offer to edit it for us.
What? Did you say may the 40s be with us?
I did. No, I said offer to edit it for us.
Oh yeah, offer to edit. I don't think I'll be able to get anything editable out of this, but that's okay. I might try.
You do. That's how you know your skills are on par.
Yeah.
With thunderous applause. Anyway.
All right. When Liberty dies. Oh yeah. I'm not gonna keep going.
No, you can't keep going. I've had this been 14 minutes just listening to the song. Damn it, we're done. Thunderous applause.
Bye.
See you later. Oh.